Hello YouTube, Shadow Hero 90 here. This is a new series I'm going to be doing called Sexism in Movies and TV. You see, the reason I do this is not because there's just sexism in the shows that I watch, but a lot of fictional characters kids see as role models and want to grow up to be like them. And although I don't really have a list of actual jerks, well, every boy needs a good role model. And this is really more of a list of fictional jerks that, without a good role model, well, a lot of young boys could grow up to be just like. And since we don't want any of, well, not just American youth, but the children of any country or gender to grow up to be like, well, real live versions of the jerks on that list, that's why I'm doing this series and essentially pointing out double standards, hypocrisy, and how many TV shows and movies have degenerated into piles of misandric garbage. Note, I do like certain shows. I like most of the shows on this list, and it's not so much as a criticism. Well, it kind of is, but there are parts where these shows need to be improved. Okay, in this episode I'll be handling Adventure Time. Since the show is basically, well, dead at this point, I think it's time I poke some holes in it while it's still relevant. This is the episode Evicted, Marceline's introduction. The plot is basically simple. Marceline essentially kicks Finn and Jake out of their treehouse because apparently she owned it
And yeah, Finn would like to basically, do the whole Van Helsing thing, but Jake is too much of a big baby to go through with it. So, essentially, out of Jake's sheer terror, they build a new house in a cave, which apparently also belongs to Marceline. Which, you know what, at this point, I actually think she probably just stuck her logo all over Ooh, and is probably just using it to screw with Finn and Jake. Especially since when Jake's terror convinces them to leave, Marceline decides she's gonna go after him, basically kidnap him, and throws in the possibility of turning him into a zombie. Okay, let me just give the inflections of what Cartoon Network has shown to the youth of America. This bitch is threatening to kill the hero's sidekick and resurrect him as a brain-eating monster. Am I the only one who sees that is messed up? And for standing up to her, Marceline gives Finn and Jake their treehouse back. But yeah, this is only the beginning of her being a worthless bitch. And now we enter the Season 1 episode, City of Thieves. Finn and Jake run across a flower girl who, surprise, surprise, comes from the City of Thieves. Even though Finn and Jake are warned that anyone who runs into the city will become a thief, Finn arrogantly goes in like the pompous egomaniac he is and vows that the City of Thieves will not corrupt him. Then the City of Thieves corrupts Jake. You know, I really think it's messed up that for at least 8 years, these characters were held up as role models for kids, especially since these characters really are not that moral unless the Lich is somehow involved. Okay, at this point, this is the part where essentially Penny, this little brat, uses Finn basically to steal for her. Finn's ego is enormous here. I mean, he says he isn't a thief, yet he's always going through dungeons, looting it. In fact, Mighty Magiswords actually had a joke in the short with the masked Magisword when Vamber and Prohias called the Guardian a thief, and he asked them how that was any different from what they were trying to do, because they essentially came to take the masked Magisword. And that's actually done way better in that show than it is here. And so, like an idiot, Finn basically goes through the magic portal because it can only keep out thieves. Well, because he's unbelievably stupid. Finn stole the gold for Penny. She set him up to steal it. She plainly admits it. And Finn, being the egomaniac that he is, basically can't admit or acknowledge what just happened. Finn essentially tries to return the chest, but he can't because he's a thief, and that's literally something he probably can't admit because of his pompous ego. Yeah, this is a horrible example for little boys everywhere. Well, a character who's living proof that chivalrous characters are not only outdated, but set a bad example for little boys. And believe me, the episode Hunchman is its own episode of sexism in movies and TV in itself, and the absolute worst episode of Adventure Time. Yes, worse than Fire and Ice. I'll just come out and say it. Finn is essentially a terrible role model for young boys everywhere. And not just because of the actions of this episode and Evicted. He is a completely horrible role model. He is stupid, egocentric, his code of honor is completely fucked up, and essentially